Thank you very much, Josh, for having me. I'm sorry I can't be there at the dinner. Unfortunately, I'm in Georgia. I just got back from a field trip where I was taking my high school cadets, where I teach Air Force Junior ROTC, down to Fort Benning, Georgia, where they do all the basic training in this area for Army recruits. We got to tour an armor museum and see a graduation parade. So, the first question is, why did I join the Air Force? And I have to be honest here. I did not immediately join the Air Force because I wanted to be in the Air Force. I joined the Air Force because I did not do very well in school. I didn't study, I didn't take tests very well, and I was not going to be able to go to college. So I joined the Air Force partially to get money to go to college, but also I needed to grow up a little bit and learn how to meet my responsibilities. So way back in 1991, I joined the Air Force, and I was going to stay in for 4 years. And then I was going to get out and go to college. But while I was there, I had an opportunity to go to college while I was still in the Air Force. And I began to like what I do in the Air Force. And I enjoyed wearing the uniform. It made me feel very proud about who I was and what I was doing. So I continued to stay in the Air Force until I finished my degree. And then I became an officer. I became a second lieutenant. And I proceeded all the way up to major until I retired in 2014. And actually now I can tell this to everyone. The Air Force has asked me to come back. So just after the first of the year, I'm going to be coming back into the Air Force, and I'll be a major once again. In the Air Force, it was a lot like an office job. We had to come in, we had to do paperwork, we drank a lot of coffee, and we had things that we had to take care of until it came time to do some of our training. And that training would take a long time. So when I had to fly to do training, sometimes I would have to be at work as early as 3 o'clock in the morning. And then sometimes I had to be there as late as midnight or even later after that, depending on how far we had to fly. So you would come in wearing your flight gear, which was a flight suit like this one. And you had to have a coat. There were certain books you had to carry with you and some other gear like a headset and some requirements, and then some classified material for whatever mission we were doing. So we couldn't let other people see that. And we would bring all that, go on the airplane, and we would fly anywhere from 6 hours upwards to 14 hours. And the longest I ever flew was 21.7 hours. And that was in a mission over Afghanistan. Now, the sacrifices that I had to make were not nearly as great as some of the other heroes you're going to hear from today. A lot of folks had to sleep in foxholes and dig ditches, and in the Air Force, I was lucky enough to never have to do that. But it was sacrifices just the same. I had to be away from my family. I had to be away from the people that I love and the things that I enjoy. So I spent a lot of time not at home. I had spent a lot of time in South America. It was very pretty. It was very hard work, but we really enjoyed what we were doing. We felt like we were making an impact. I spent a little bit of time in Japan. That was actually a lot of fun. And then I spent a good bit of time in the Middle East in a place called the United Arab Emirates, which is a beautiful country full of really great people. But we would fly out of there and we would go to other countries and do our job. And in 2004, I even spent 6 months in the Horn of Africa in a country called Eritrea and a country called Ethiopia. And I was working for the United Nations there. And that was very hard. I got sick a lot because there's a lot of things down there where you can get exposed to certain viruses. And I caught more than a few of them. So I do feel like I made a lot of sacrifices, and I did the math once, and I figured out that I had been gone for half of my marriage, and my wife wasn't very happy about that. Now, the plane that I flew in was called the E-3 AWACS, and it's a big plane. And here's a picture of it right here. I hope that comes into focus. And it's what they call an airborne command and control platform. And that big disc right here on the back of that plane, that's a giant radar. And we would use that to find airplanes and talk to airplanes and control airplanes as they were flying through the air. And if I'm honest, it was a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed the cruise that I had on there. So I want to thank all of you for having me here at your dinner. And I'd like to remind you that being in the military is very much like being in the Scouts. We had our laws, or our oath, that we have to take, and then we had our motto, and our motto was integrity first, service before self, and excellence in all we do. And integrity first means that we always tell the truth. And service before self means you put the needs of the squadron and the needs of the Air Force before your own personal needs. And excellence in all we do is exactly like your motto, which is do your best. And I hope that you all do continue to do your best. Have a great lunch. Thank you for having me.